Hello, and welcome to the LA Venture Podcast. This is Minnie Ingersoll, host of the podcast and partner at 10110. 10110 is a seed stage fund here in LA. All opinions expressed on this show by me and my guests are solely our own. If you are interested in LA Venture, go to 10110.net/podcast, where I've made a sortable list of all of the great LA VCs who've been on this show. Today's guest is Josh Resnick. Josh is the founding general partner at OpenSky, where he is investing in the future of commerce. Prior to OpenSky, Josh was the co-founder and CEO of Sugarfina, a luxury confections brand that was recognized as a top 10 most innovative retailer and one of the world's most innovative companies. Prior to that, Josh was the founder of video game developer Pandemic Studios, which sold to EA for $860 million.
Yep, stupid amount of money, but I didn't say no.
Yeah, I would have said hell yeah to that one.
Yeah, I did.
Good move on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a while ago, Pandemic Studios and Sugarfina. So I want to talk a little bit about OpenSky and then probably get back because I think your journey is really interesting on how you got to where you are. But let's start with OpenSky and what you're doing today.
Yeah, no, you got it. So I started OpenSky with a good friend and partner, Josh Payne, who was also an operator, an angel investor. And, around a year ago, we're like, look, we're really enjoying investing together. I think we're bringing something special to the table because we've both been operators before. And we started deploying capital to the point now that we have 13 investments. And we had an amazing year. We're up almost 50%. And actually, I forgot to say what we do. OpenSky is focused on the future of commerce. So think about that whole technology stack that digitally native brands will use to run their business more efficiently, to grow faster, to engage with their customers. So around 2/3 of our fund is oriented towards that tech stack. And the other third is on the brands themselves that are using that technology. And we like playing early stage. So we're like pre-seed and seed.
And why do you like commerce or why invest in tools for commerce?
Well, I did a lot of it, I guess, at Sugarfina. We had to build a brand from scratch. And I would say it was kind of a scarcity mindset. When I was building Sugarfina, we would have loved to have tools like that are available today, right now, where you could just pick this amazing technology off the shelf and solve real problems for your business. And so you don't have to think about it. I felt that when we were running Sugarfina, we would get distracted a lot by either, trying to find off the shelf solutions for problems that we were having or having to build them ourselves. And I wish we could have started it 10 years later, because I think there's an embarrassment of riches, now. Subscriptions are taken care of, email is taken care of, SMS is taken care of. So much is now taken care of by off the shelf technology. It's just a totally different environment.
So what is a journey? Do most of the brands, do most people start on Shopify and grow to a certain scale? And what does it look like today?
Yeah, no, I mean, that is pretty typical. So you'll hang up your shingle on Shopify, because it's such a robust ecosystem and there is so much available to, brands to pick from there. And, from the journey for founders, we've noticed that it makes a lot of sense to start online at first, really understand your customer, understand your pricing strategy, all of that, and then start branching out to other distribution channels. So we have a few investments, for example, in food and bev on the consumer side. And, they'll develop great relationships with their customers online, build out their subscription base and all that. But inevitably, it makes sense for them to go offline and go into grocery, for example, or big box and things like that.
And I guess my intuition is that selling a subscription online is very different than selling one can to someone who's browsing at Target.
I don't know if this is controversial, what I'm about to say. I don't know if I necessarily agree. I mean, I think of myself as a customer and you as a customer, I shop everywhere. What I recommend to our brands, you've heard this before, is go where your customers are. I shop on Amazon. I shop in grocery. I shop online. I shop on my phone. People are not, I don't think, as maybe pigeonholed anymore. And I think they're everywhere now. And so as a brand, the easiest thing to do is start online because you can learn the most affordably. You can learn online because it does take an extra layer of sophistication than to go into retail or deal with distributors or, just to deal with some of the thresholds, requirements, and spending that's required to go offline. But go where your customers are, and I think your customers are everywhere.
But I just would have thought, but okay, no, I don't disagree because I don't know this space. But like, I never sign up for like a subscription when I walk into Whole Foods. Will
Right.
I?
Let's say you walk into Whole Foods, you discover, well, I'll give you an example. I was in a restaurant and I discovered the brand Tepache. It's this great fermented soda from Mexico. So I was in a restaurant, I discovered it there. I then saw it in my local retailer and sort of go, great, I'm going to pick up a case of this. And I started noticing I was drinking a lot. It started becoming one of my, favorite all natural kind of soda drinks. And then I'm like, well, this is a pain in the butt to, to always be buying it, in a real store. And it'll just be so much easier if I subscribe and I'm consuming enough to do it. So I went directly to their website and I subscribed. So I had a customer journey that took me, into the real world, into grocery, and then online. And that's where I am right now for that brand.
I like fermented soda. I'm actually
It's
very
really good,
interested.
actually. I think it's called De La Calle, Tapache De La Calle, something like that. But it's a great brand.
I will check it out. My journey with the brand is starting with the podcast. So some of what you said is that there will be better tools for the brands to do what they're already doing. But I'd love to talk about like what is exciting to you about the future of how commerce is going to evolve.
There's probably an answer you've heard before, but there's some real truth behind it. AI is just the most disruptive force that's coming at us right now. And I still don't think we fully appreciate how disruptive, I think it's going to be. There has been some, great customer service software platforms, out there and packages out there. And then here comes Sienna, and they're just disrupting the hell out of that space right now because they have, written a proprietary level of code on top of ChatGPT. And right out of the box, you're getting 120 languages. It can respond to customer queries across the spectrum of where your customers are, whether they're in social media or, they're DMing you or they're doing, direct on your website and submitting tickets to you. I think they started at maybe at 80% in terms of being able to replace, live agents, with their knowledge and responsiveness. And now I think they're up into like 85 or getting closer to 90%. At Sugarfina, I had to like scale up our QA, department, our customer experience department massively around the holidays. And you would have to track all of our hallmark holidays around the year. With a program like Sienna, it can handle like tens of thousands of queries at once, and it does it well. That's a game changer.
100%. There's a lot of opportunity there. And how far down the stack will you go? Like, will you look at supply chain?
Oh, absolutely. For example, just started advising a company called Cloud 3PL. And these guys are great. What they've done is they've added a layer on top of Amazon's logistics setup. Amazon, probably the best, 3PL on the planet. And they've been able to tap into their services, write this proprietary kind of software layer on top to help companies, track their inventory, manage it, understand what tickets are being processed, and the whole journey of when, a ticket is issued all the way to something you put into a box and arriving at the customer's door. But they're leveraging Amazon for that. And they're called Cloud 3PL because, they're not going to have a network of typical, 3PL locations all across the country. They're just going to tap into Amazon's. And when I think about a brand's journey, when a brand has a physical product and I look at their kind of waterfall of costs, one of the biggest cogs that they have is pick and pack and shipping and fulfillment and warehousing. It's death by 1,000 cuts for their margin. And so if these guys can take that down by like half, that's meaningful. I remember at Sugarfina, we would fight for every penny on those pick and pack fees. So yes, so we're interested in logistics as well, to answer your question.
And talk to me more about Amazon and its role in the future of commerce.
I mean, you can't ignore Amazon. That's what I think about it. Amazon is like its whole separate internet out there. And, I know it's not for every brand. And in fact, at Sugarfina, we chose to ignore Amazon for a while because they really did create an ecosystem that supported luxury brands like ours that was very much about storytelling. That said, I'm always recommending brands get on Amazon. In fact, our very first investment was in a company that operates in the Amazon ecosystem. They're called Levanta. And what they do is they have written a software layer that does a much better job of connecting brands that sell on Amazon with content publishers that link back to those brands. So basically the whole affiliate world. And Amazon had, some light tools doing that, but they were not robust at all. And so if they can, fine tune that experience for brands so that they're having a direct relationship with affiliates and content publishers, and they can set their own rates and they can track, the volume of sales better, just do all that stuff better. That was really exciting to us. So that was the first check we wrote, and they're killing it. God, I think they hit like a couple $1 million of ARR in their first year.
And when OpenSky is investing, it's usually pre-seed, seed, usually not the lead.
We don't lead. I mean, we're a tea shop. It's me and Josh and another another venture partner. Our checks aren't big enough, for it to make sense for us to be on, companies' boards or to lead. So we're very comfortable following. Our check size is anywhere from 100 to 300,000 right now.
That's great for all of us who like e-commerce tech. You'd be a great partner to co-invest with.
We'd like to think so.
But let's switch gears and talk about you. Can you summarize the Sugarfina journey?
I can try. And I had my whole video game journey before that. But yeah, to focus on Sugarfina, I started dating my now life partner. And we went to go see Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, this outdoor screening of it in LA. And we came out of that going, why don't kids have all the fun? Where's a grown up candy brand? And there was none at that time. Candy had been really commoditized. If you wanted to get candy, you'd have to walk into this junky candy store, shovel candy out of a barrel, and they weigh it. And it was a commodity. It was terrible. So we were doing a lot of traveling as we were, dating and courting. And we discovered all these amazing artisan candies made by old world candy makers in Italy and Greece and Japan. And they went back hundreds of years in terms of their traditions and their recipes. And no one in America was getting exposed to it. They were just too small. They didn't want to deal with all the hassle of exporting their candies. So we realized there was a real opportunity there for us to discover all these candies, to curate them, to bring them, to the US, and to create a brand that felt very shareable and giftable and aimed at grown-ups. And we started online. That was the easiest, most efficient thing to do. And really quickly, the brand took off when we started getting a lot of press around the brand. And we knew we were onto something when all of a sudden, customers were ordering and we didn't know who they were, because at the beginning it was our friends and our family. And yeah, so we got some great early press. We started doing a little bit of wholesale. We took a chance on opening up our first store in Beverly Hills. And everything we did for those first 5 years just took off like crazy. In our first 5 years, we didn't spend any marketing dollars. And so we just kept on doubling and tripling, without any marketing support at all. And by the way, that's a lesson learned for me that I use now as a filter when I'm investing in a brand. Do you have a brand that at its core level can grow organically, or do you have to put a lot of marketing dollars behind it? And we look for those brands that just have that kind of organic DNA. Any case, we started raising money, opening stores around the country, internationally. First 5 years were brilliant. Last couple of years were really tough. We just grew so fast that I think, we made some core mistakes. Our business got too complex. We didn't have the right foundation in place to support that growth. And, I think we struggled to have the right team in place that could scale with us as we were growing that fast. So I did not have the same kind of amazing exit with Sugarfina that I had with Pandemic, but I'm so proud of the brand we built, which still lives on today.
And yet now you're a VC, and a big part of venture is investing in explosive growth and multi-billion-dollar outcomes.
And I push against that. I don't want my brands or companies to do that. I don't. It's a subtle shift, obviously, at OpenSky. We want our brands to be successful and grow, but we only want to grow for them to grow if they can grow sustainably. Because otherwise, it's a house of cards. It will fall down. It will fall down if you grow too fast. It just puts way too much pressure on the business. And just as much as I do, there's been a big shift among the VC community over the last couple of years to really say, hold on a minute, we don't want you to be raising all these funds. You're just pouring it into marketing, and you grow, and you skip over some important fundamentals of like really knowing your customers well and even being able to take a moment to look at the data that you're collecting to understand what's happening. And a lot of times, if you grow too fast, that means you're probably adding too many SKUs too quickly. And there's a lot of things that will create a deficit.
So let's dig in on that. Like, how did you or didn't you get a handle on all your data?
Yeah, we did not. So, well, one of the many challenges we faced is we had too much data and we didn't know how to slice and dice it. Now, part of that was there just wasn't the right tech available at that point to help us. Because, we had a lot of smart people on board, of course. And now I'm seeing that there is much better tech out there, and in fact, powered by AI. And again, this is self-serving, but one of the other companies we just invested in is called Dash. DAASH. They bill themselves as the Bloomberg terminal for brands at retail. And so as brands inevitably make that jump from online to retail, they have created this, very easy to digest central information on what your competitors are doing at retail. So you can understand, how are they being priced? Whose shelves are they on? How many SKUs do they have there? What are their facings? What's their velocity? All of that kind of stuff. So before you jump in, you have some really good data on how you should position your brand.
What
Yeah.
are facings?
Oh, facings are, so do they have five, it's how many instances of their product are on the shelf. So online, you can have an infinite amount to a degree, but in retail, you're somewhat limited in terms of how many facings you can have on a shelf.
It
But
sounds obvious. How many
yeah.
facings?
Yeah.
You are a world's top retailer, most innovative
We were for a
retailer.
while, I
Worlds in
guess.
the world, Josh.
I don't know about that, but sure, someone can say we were the, yeah. I mean, it's Sugarfina. We didn't know what we didn't know, and so we just kind of went in and started figuring things out on our own. And I kind of like that approach in some regards because it allows you to be creative when you don't even know you're breaking things and being more creative. But at Sugarfina, I don't know if we pioneered this or not, but we were very thoughtful about our brand and how it was presented, and we leaned into surprise and delight. So, making sure as people walked in the door, we sampled our products and they were able to, to taste them. We were very thoughtful about how we presented the brand. So when you walked in, we wanted you to feel a certain way. And I think we were really good at that, making you feel like a kid in a candy store, but you were a grown-up.
It felt Willy Wonka. That's an
It
interesting.
did. Yeah, and that was our inspiration at the end of the day. I don't think we ever got as wacky as Willy Wonka did, but we tapped into something really unique. And a prime example of that is our number one product.
Champagne? Was it champagne gummy
Exactly. It
bears?
was the Dom Perignon Champagne Gummy Bears. But one thing that I did, which was really fun, and that is to take a really expensive champagne. And by the way, there was actual Dom Perignon champagne in every gummy bear, but we would marry, we used all natural ingredients. We had small portions. So you felt like, I can come in here and I can indulge. And at the same time, we made you feel comfortable parting ways with $10 for this little teeny cube of gummy bears that normally you'd pay $1 for. So,
Yeah, but I could pay $3 and have a big bag of gummy bears, but then I might eat a big bag of gummy. I don't know that I really
yeah.
want
And
it.
so for us, we consciously had small portions, but we consciously had really high end ingredients, and we were tapping into that happy feeling of being a kid again as an adult. And on the retail side, we found a way to express that in a way that was really inviting so that people wanted to have birthday parties and networking events there and just spend a lot of time in our stores.
Like when you're looking at a brand today, my
Yeah.
summary of Sugarfina from what you just said, it was a different almost category. It was a different thing. Like there wasn't a.
There was nothing out there like it.
But how much when you're looking at something are you thinking, this is an interesting brand. I understand brand. I, Josh Resnick,
Right.
understand brand versus I'm just looking at the numbers and your conversions are high and your subscriptions are high, whatever.
Yeah, it's a balance of both, honestly. I first look to this is a brand because I have so much experience in brands, I do kind of put it through my own filter first. How am I feeling? Do I get excited about this brand enough that I want to share it with other people? Am I telling people about it? How am I integrating it into my daily life? Is it a brand I'm going to use once every 3 months, or is it a product I'm going to use every day? Again, does it make me happy? How's the unboxing experience? Do I feel like the founder has a really authentic, compelling story, almost to the point where like I want to buy more of it just to support the mission, behind this brand. So I do look for those kind of things in addition to the quantitative support behind it. How much is it costing them for them to acquire customers? Hopefully not a lot because it's more organic than paid. How much are their customers spending? Obviously, what's the lifetime value? What's the velocity of the product? What's their conversion rate on their site? How many subscribers do they have? All that kind of normal stuff. I need both before I write a check.
And so, how much information are you expecting brands to have, and how did you get that at Sugarfina?
So with Sugarfina, we did that through our rewards program. We had a really robust rewards program where you sign up online, you sign up in store, and you get all of these awesome perks for being a part of the program. But we learned a ton about our customers because of that. We knew who our whales were. And so then we could really tailor our marketing to them based on, hey, we're going to be releasing this new product. Why don't you come into the store, bring your family with you and we'll have a little event. And with candy, you wouldn't think that's worthwhile. What are they going to spend? $10 on a cube of candy? But that's not the case. In Sugarfina, they spent thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars on our product because they were using it to gift.
That is pretty awesome. Let's keep riffing on the future. Do you think there are any misconceptions about what the future of commerce looks like?
Well, one big thing is, everyone's like online, retail is dead, right? But it's not true. It's, retail as an industry is still $1 trillion not online, and only 20% has come online. We're excited about it because there's just still so much growth, yet to come.
So, okay, wait. So, commerce right now, 20% digital, 80% physical.
Mhm.
Do you think that changes dramatically?
I don't think it's going to be dramatic. The center of gravity is, I think, going to continue to be online. So, for example, mobile retail, TikTok opening up their shop, that's a really big deal. I personally spend a lot of time on TikTok and on Instagram and TikTok. I would say actually more of my brand discovery right now is on social media than it is online and in real life.
So, let's continue on your brand discovery and your angel investing. You've done quite a bit, and your LinkedIn allows an entrepreneur to book a meeting with you and get your advice. What sort of advice are you giving? What sort of questions are you getting?
Yeah, this will take up the rest of the podcast because
Great.
I have a ton of advice to give, again, because I've been in all these different roles. So, one is like put a little bit more time and effort into your pitch deck. I see dozens of pitch decks a week. And there's some really good teams out there and great ideas that unfortunately are getting lost and not getting the attention they deserve because they're just not being thoughtful enough about what goes into their deck. They're missing whole sections. They're just, and I know this sounds silly, and I know, this is going to make me look like a curmudgeon, but, there's so many typos and grammatical mistakes and
Hmm.
these things that all I think about is, oh, you don't care. You don't have the right attention, the attention to detail that I would expect of you. And in terms of, what I would recommend that they do is, and again, some of this is just basic business school 101. Cash is king. Don't run out of it. Don't take it for granted. Treat every dollar as super, super precious because, you got to make at least $3 or $4 before you get that dollar back, cascading through your P&L. And I see founders taking that advice really seriously right now. There is a scarcity DNA that I'm now seeing in founders today, which I'm just so thankful for because I've seen too many great brands hit a wall and run out of cash. And it's tragic.
But how do I really know how to reach my customers or what channels work? Like, don't I need to run experiments?
You absolutely do. And that's a legitimate way to spend your money. But like some companies will go too deep in legal. They just go crazy on the legal side when they'll, I guess have to hire the best law firm at $1,500 an hour. No, be a little bit more, thoughtful
Mm.
about that. Or, they'll file 100 trademarks and I got to protect my business all around the world. You can go a deep, dark hole there. You can spend millions of dollars on that. Don't do that.
Mhm.
Or, they hire too quickly. Oh, my plan says I'm going to be at this threshold in 6 months. I better have everyone on board before then. And I would caution people about that. I would rather you stretch your team a little bit more as you're entering that period. Or some people, they just go too deep on inventory, or just take those baby steps and keep that startup mindset as long as you can. With some entrepreneurs, when they get that big money coming in, all of a sudden they relax and you can see what happens. All of a sudden they just start spending it and they're spending it too fast. And they need to be careful of doing that. But another example of that is why when I was talking to you about the complexity of a business like Sugarfina is, don't create 20 SKUs at once. Stick longer with your hero products and, more slowly start branching out and expanding that. So tempting to go, well, every new product I add in is a whole new story for me to tell. We'll get a whole bunch of earned media. Sure, some people will start buying it, but every new product you add in has just a bundle of complexity attached to it. And so be careful not to expand too quickly.
Someone said this to me on my podcast, which is something like, every time I see a product, I'm amazed that it exists, like in the bottle with the
I
right
know. It's
ingredients.
hard. It's hard. You don't realize how hard it is to
I mean,
get
how
that
did you
product to
learn
you.
all that?
Yeah, you just learn it on the job. I knew nothing about any of that when we were at Sugar Panda. We just learned, you just one day at a time, you start layering it in. It's like, oh, wait, we were traveling. We found these amazing artisan candy makers. Great. We got the candy part sold. Shoot, what's the packaging look like? Okay, we want to create something really eye-catching. It's transparent. You can see what you're buying and all that. And so, oh, I guess we have to go with acrylic. Who makes acrylic and who can shape it? And you just, you slowly just start layering it, together and figuring that out. But it is a really hard journey that I don't think enough people appreciate how hard it is to actually get something in a package and get it on shelf or get it to you.
Totally amazing that it all works. Let's talk about the role of advisors. You invested in Intro.
Yes.
I assume you think it works.
Yes.
What makes Intro work as a way of connecting entrepreneurs with advisors?
They have made just such an easy interface for engaging with potential mentors that just the whole experience, and that's what I knew Intro was working right away. They created this platform that made it super easy to discover who could be helpful to you, really easy to schedule those appointments. It's just seamless, easy to use. And I knew it worked because both Josh and I, my partner, got on there and the effusive feedback that we got from those entrepreneurs who were scheduling time with us was just amazing. It validated his premise for his whole business. And that is, we forget being here in LA or big markets like New York, maybe it is easier for us to seed our networks with people who can act as advisors and mentors towards us. That's not universally the case for people around the world. So Intro truly is democratizing that access. How amazing is it that you can spend a few $100s and, talk to the CEO of Reddit, or, the CEO or, a managing partner at a VC firm. That's not easy to get that access. You have to be really lucky to have that kind of network.
Makes sense. Let's try to get in one more bit of your background, and I was hoping for the quick summary of your first company, Pandemic Studios.
Yeah, that was also came out of a passion. I played video games all my life. I went to college, messed around a little bit with different things. I went to business school and I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I finally had an epiphany of, well, okay, there's two things I love. I love playing tennis. I played in high school and a little bit in college, and I love video games. I was really confident I couldn't become a professional tennis player. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll try to become a video game developer. I don't even know what that means. So I sent my resume everywhere, and Activision was the only company that took me in and gave me a shot. And I was a producer there, and then I became a director, and then I kind of went into their executive suite for a little while. And then I had an opportunity to break away and form my own development studio, which was Pandemic Studios. And we specialize in creating over the top, crazy action games for all the different platforms at the time. So PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and your phone. And we just had such a fun growth trajectory. We started developing around technology, and then we started working with other people's licenses. And the biggest one we worked with was Star Wars, and we created the Star Wars Battlefront series. And we had 1 year, this was just so fun. I have such fond memories of it, where in 1 year, every title we released 4 titles, was a platinum hit, sold millions of units. And I'd love to say that we're like, oh yeah, we had that formula dialed in. But for that year, we had that formula dialed in. And then we started making sequels. And then we attracted the attention of a private equity firm called Elevation Partners, which Bono, of all
Yeah, I
people, was one of the
remember.
partners. And we got to know him well, which was just amazing. So they bought majority control of us. And then another big developer called BioWare in Canada merged us together. And then we sold the whole thing to Electronic Arts. But it was just such a fantastic experience. We had 500 employees across 2 continents, in Australia and the US. And we were known for having, one of the most fun people cultures in the industry. And so that was really, really enjoyable. And I miss it dearly. That was a really, really fun part of my life.
Wow. How many employees did Sugarfina end up having sort of at its peak?
Also, hundreds of employees because we had our own warehouse. We handled our logistics internally, and we had 50 stores across the country. So I think also we probably got into the 500 range. Yeah.
So why do you think you were, it's never a perfect success, but why do you think you were so successful twice being a founder?
I would say one thing that I can see as a commonality between the two is that neither pandemic or Sugarfina was an idea born out of a desire to make a certain amount of money. It came out of passion. So I would say that was one part of my success. I'd say the second part is on understanding that I can only do so much. That I'm a smart guy, but ultimately I can't grow a successful business unless I have a great people and I motivate them to come in every single day and choose my company to work at. And with, Sugarfina and with, pandemic, we were making things that people really wanted and gave them joy. I mean, maybe that's the other part of that ingredient is we created products that made people happy.
Awesome. And you said this idly earlier. You said like, I'm a good guy, something like that. I always like to ask people like how your friends would describe you.
That's a great question. I would say one, loyal. So I'm always there for them. I really care deeply about their happiness. So I really value the friendships in my life. I'd say number two, and this is kind of new for me, but adventurous. I think I was a little square, in my 20s and 30s. And my friends finally convinced me after over a decade of trying for me to go to Burning Man. And so 5 years, 7 years ago, I went to Burning Man and I just resisted it all the way. Burning Man's not for me. It's just, no, that's not me. And I went and I had such a transformative experience and I loved it so much. And now my whole life is really kind of governed by a yes and mentality. And I really credit, Burning Man with that. And I'd say thirdly, I'm known for being very optimistic. So I just have a very positive, happy, optimistic outlook on life. That's not something that I woke up one day and decided to have. I think I was probably born with it.
That's great. So you're optimistic and adventurous. Josh, it is awesome to get to know you. I love it. I am excited about the future of OpenSky
Thank you.
and really appreciate you coming on the podcast and telling me about it.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, this is the first time I've ever done a podcast. So,
Well, first and best.